Hello and welcome to another Dawn and Julia Create. So this week we're playing with fabrics.
So this is my challenge, and yes, we're playing with fabrics once again. Now this is because the last time that we did a challenge where we played with fabrics, I did not explain myself that well to Dawn. This sometimes happens with Dawn and I. We know what we have in our head and we think we've explained it, and then it's only when we see what the other person did we realise we didn't explain it that well. Now what I'd said to Dawn was create a work of art using fabric. And that's exactly what she did. She only used fabric and she took it that you were only to use fabric. Now, in my head, I thought I was making a work of art, so that was on paper and I added fabric, but I didn't actually say that. But anyway, Dawn created the most gorgeous fabric piece, and I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit jealous that I hadn't actually just done that. So I thought, let's revisit this challenge, but I will do a project just using fabrics only, and Dawn will do a project where she combines paper and fabric. So that's what we've done today. Now, I love doing a sort of whimsical, quirky collage with all my scraps of paper. If I get paper scraps, I just love building a little scene out of random shapes. And I thought I would do the same thing with my fabrics. So I've got my main character. I had that bit of fabric there that you would have seen, and I just cut out the little dog. And now from all the random scraps that I've got, I am cutting little shapes out and just sort of building up my scene. I'm borrowing Dawn's idea from when she did her project, and I'm kind of using a piece of felt for the base because I didn't really have anything else that was suitable. So I'm just gradually building this up, looking at the fabrics, looking at the designs that I've got and seeing what sort of quirkiness I can put together. So it's quite different. I mean, to be honest, I love how this has turned out. But I did like how textural Dawn's piece was, so I might have to do more fabric pieces. Now, when I do this with paper, I try and bring the pieces to life by adding a little bit of ink around the edges for depth, and then I normally do like a doodly border on all the individual pieces, so it breaks it up and it stands out a little bit more. Now, obviously, I don't have the ability to do that with the fabrics, so what I did decide to do was to overlock or do a zigzag stitch in black around every single individual shape that I had, and that was almost creating that sort of edging and doodle effect that I would have had if I was on paper. And then I stitched the pieces together like you see there. So now when I put it all together, everything has this fabulous black edge which just helps it to be a little bit more distinguishable about what it is. So once I had done that and got that nice black edging, I then pinned it all together and stitched the next bit. Now, for some unknown reason, despite the fact that I have now been making YouTube videos for many years, I failed to video that bit. But I did remember to video stitching the dog on. So at the end, after I'd removed all the threads and cleaned it up a bit, I just stitched the dog on. I have to say I went really quite slowly with this bit because I was a bit concerned that if I went too fast, I would have ended up with black stitching across his face, and that wouldn't have looked good. So yeah, just taking my time and stitching down the little dog. And that's what you can see me doing here. So it'll be interesting to see Dawn's take because she's having to merge paper and fabric together. So I can't wait to see what she will have done. I want to add extra details, so I've kind of gone in with my threads. To be honest, I started this process with the embroidery thread, but I couldn't get the needle that had a wide enough hole in it to thread the thread to actually be sharp enough to go through the fabric. So I switched out to some glitter thread, and what I've done is some of those little odds and ends and scraps of fabric that you can just see on the left there, I was kind of scrunching them up and then sort of stitching over them with like big crosses and star shapes. So it's quite loose, but it was just to add a little bit of texture and detail. I also had this lace left over from the project where we did the snippet roll, and Dawn said that I had to use lace. So I had a couple of those flowers left over. That's why they were in that sort of snippet box from when I'd done that snippet roll, and I just added those little bits of detail. Now, I was liking it, but that bit of black stitching just really bothered me. I think I'd reversed back and forward to make sure it was stuck okay, and it was black and it was unsightly and I didn't like it. So I then started sort of faffing about with different fabrics to find a way of kind of covering that. I didn't like that, but I thought it would make quite nice leaves. So I just sort of moved it around until I found somewhere where it sat, which it went well there. And then I tried cutting out a little flower. I thought maybe we could have flowers on the trees, but that wasn't particularly working for me either. So in the end, I just sort of have a little bit of fabric. And by this point, I was sort of done sewing. I'd had the sewing machine up and down so many times that I was like, just whacked it down with a bit of glue. No one's ever going to know. Well, you guys are going to know because you're watching the video. But anyone just looking at the page randomly in my journal will never know. So we're all good. It's still fabric. I didn't say it had to be stitched. So that is glued. And that is it all done. Now, what will you then do with this fabric page, you may ask? Well, the fact that I do like a deconstructed journal means I can add it to my journal. So that's what I'm doing. I've got this journal. I think this is a junk and disorderly one, which is square, which happened to be the same size as the felt. That was just pure coincidence and a happy accident. That was not planned, but it was a very happy accident. So I've just punched some holes into my fabric piece with my crocodile. Amazing tool, that literally goes through everything. And now I have a fabric page in my journal, which I think is awesome. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to check out Dawn.